Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show. We give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is Mark Ellis.
Welcome one and all to the very timely appearance of Collider Movie Talk, the best movie show in the entire galaxy. My name is merely Mark. On today's show, Venom is in, Jason is out, and Deadpool takes a nap somewhere famous. Like I said, I will be hosting today. Our good buddy John Campia is taking some time off. He had a close friend pass away this weekend, and we send him, the family, and friends all of our best wishes. Ashley, who's joining us on the panel today?
Also here is Perri Nemiroff.
Jeremy just left me hanging. Thanks a lot. Hope you guys had a good weekend.
Speaking of the devil, Jeremy Jahns. Okay.
Yeah, nice. Oh, there he goes.
That's actually a good push.
Hi, Ashley's just frozen.
I can't tell what's happening because I can't see the monitor. Also hear Kristian Harloff.
Yeah, we're good. Let's just start this.
All right, Ashley, let's take a bold attempt 47 meters down and talk about our first news story.
In a recent interview found on Twitter via the Tom Holland Updates handle, Spider-Man Homecoming producer Amy Pascal alongside Kevin Feige revealed that the upcoming spin-offs Venom and Silver and Black could be connected to the new Peter Parker that will be making his MCU debut this July in Homecoming. The two movies to be produced by Sony were at first reported to be separate from the actual character of Spider-Man and the MCU, with Pascal's comments now causing everyone to believe Tom Holland could appear in both Venom and Silver and Black, thus making them a part of the MCU. Here's what she said. Both movies will all take place in the world that we're now creating for Peter Parker. I mean, they'll all be adjuncts to it. There may be different locations, but it will still be all in the same world, and they will be connected to each other. Ellis, what do you think Pascal's comments, and do you believe it means Venom will be a part of the MCU?
I have many thoughts, Ashley, but the one percolating at the top of my head is, well, yeah, this makes sense. This is the right move for Sony to do, to connect all of these standalone movies into the greater universe that not only will incorporate Spider-Man, one of the most popular characters in movie history, but also, by proxy, perhaps the MCU. However, I'm really curious as to the timeline of these comments and why she would choose right now, on the heels of the Spider-Man movie coming out, which we all know is connected to the MCU. You have these announcements that are getting fans excited, and a lot of people are buzzing about Tom Hardy playing Venom. But Kristian, this is something that we suspected they might do, if not for the fact that the same studio told us repeatedly that these movies would not be connected to the current Spider-Man. So what do you make of all this?
I'll play conspiracy theorist. I don't think that Marvel and Sony are exactly on the same page yet, because if you watch those videos, and by the way, some of the funniest videos that have been going out so far, the Curb Your Enthusiasm one is so good. Kevin Feige's face during this interview is priceless. Like, she's talking, he's just kind of like, he just kind of shuts down. Like, he doesn't know what to do because I think that the conversation, he's been one of the guys that's saying that this was not the case. Now, is it smoke and mirrors? Have they been waiting? Did she maybe reveal too soon that that was the case and that's always been the case? Certainly possible. Or is it, well, we haven't really defined that completely yet and you just put it out there, so that didn't go over very well. But Kevin Feige didn't hide his face as well as maybe he should have, because he was caught off guard. I mean, he was clearly caught off guard by the fact that Amy Pascal decided to go ahead and talk. I mean, you could see it. Now, the bigger issue is, should it all fit together? I absolutely think it should. I thought it should from the second this thing started and people started talking about it, because you're reestablishing Spider-Man and this universe, and you want to start a shared universe, you should connect it into the thing that will ultimately make it very successful. Civil War made it already, anticipated, very successful. It was able to clean off some of the stink from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 that just happened. We have to see how this movie's going to be in July. That's the most important thing. But I think it makes sense. If you're going to do a universe, you got to connect them.
Yeah, nobody happier at Kevin Feige's face than Ben Affleck, because we finally stopped talking about sad Affleck. Jeremy, you're one of the guys that along with Campia and Schnepp, who were very vocal this weekend about, hey, we knew this and we suspected this all along. You also assumed Venom was going to be in the greater universe that's going to contain Spider-Man.
Oh, well, I was never 100%. I was like, I could see it happening, but the things that stand out in my head as flags are, you look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I just don't see that kid at that phase in his life who just got a new suit from Tony Stark being like, yeah, I totally had that Venom symbiote on me at some point. I was very angry. I did some stuff. So I feel like the Venom movie will take place a bit later on in his life. And so when we see the Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, they're before the Venom movie, but they are in the same universe. Because also, at a point, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, he's a nerd in high school. That's why he's relatable. And then at a point, Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, becomes a romance to him. If she is in the same universe as him, and she's a romance with him at that phase in his life, you're no longer a nerd in high school, dude. You're the envy of everybody. So I feel like the Sony movies will take place maybe a little later, but I do agree that I can see it being a thing where Sony was like, do we want to do that? And this is my speculation, but I feel like Feige and Marvel and all of them were like, well, that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. We'll talk. And they were like, all right, sweet, it's happening. It's like the ink's not dry yet. We just kind of said, I don't think they're on the same page either. Yeah. So I feel like it was a conversation that may have happened, or a conversation that happened, and they're like, we'll roll it out eventually, and then they just kind of ran with it.
Amy Pascal walks out of the room after the interview and goes,
Perri, as fans, we get so excited about anytime there's a shared universe and we want everything to be connected. Is this interconnectivity the right play for Sony?
It could be. I think there's just so many sides of this, and we don't know what to take as fact at this point. So a week before this interview happened, Feige said that no, they have no plans for Venom to be part of the MCU. So I feel like what happened is just, her just talking about maybe things that she shouldn't have spoken about, maybe things that aren't quite clear right now, but it can go one of two ways. So the key word there for me, I think she used was adjunct. I think that was the word she used, but that's kind of what I was picturing from day one when they had announced Venom and Black and Silver, is that you can't really do those movies and not have Spider-Man part of it at all. So I think when she says that this exists in the same world as the MCU movies, it's more so like those are taking place over there, and while those are going on, our stuff is happening over here, and they're not creatively connected in a way where Marvel would need creative control over their movies, but you could have a scenario where Spider-Man is referenced on TV or in the newspaper, and that right there is really all Sony needs, because people out there, the second you put Tom Holland in a Spider-Man suit and say he's part of the MCU, all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, like I'm open to having Spider-Man back again. And then once you have that established connection from Spider-Man Homecoming and Civil War, and then people see that he's coming up, that he's referenced in a Sony-made movie, then it's like, oh, I see how it's all connected, and all of a sudden Sony gets a boost without actually needing to give Marvel the creative control.
They're gonna need to put him in the movie sometimes. So they're not gonna be able to just do a mention. If they're gonna connect the universe, I agree with you that putting in a couple mentions here and there will let us know that it's part of it. But I think you've gotta, if you're gonna say this is part of it, then you have to show him at one point or another, even if it's a post-credit scene.
And for all we know, that's kind of what she was hinting at here. Maybe it doesn't exist right now, but maybe they're having those conversations for future movies.
So it's kind of like, if I'm hearing you correctly, and I can see them going about it this way, it's kind of like the Netflix Marvel shows and the Marvel movies, where it's like, they're connected. I mean, you don't see the Netflix shows in the Marvel movie, but they are connected, and they make a couple references. You don't need Tony Stark in the Netflix show to know that Tony Stark is kind of in that world. And
maybe that's all they confirmed with this news story, is that you will see a framed headline of something about Spider-Man in the background of the Venom movie. Won't that be exciting for everybody? Well, unfortunately, that's not the only tangled web that has been weaved this weekend. Ashley, what's our next story? That was a great segue.
That was great. In a report from THR, the fate of the Friday the 13th franchise is now unknown, as a legal battle puts its future at risk between producer Sean Cunningham and screenwriter Victor Miller, both of whom claim to own the rights to the Friday the 13th. Miller is looking to invoke a provision in copyright law which allows authors to reclaim ownership, while Cunningham argues that Miller wrote Friday the 13th as work for hire, so he has no rights to the property. The result could tear apart the franchise, with Miller potentially ending up with the domestic rights to the first film, as well as the Friday the 13th title, and Cunningham only able to use the character of Jason and not the title Friday the 13th. It also means that any film using the character of Jason could be barred from release in the U.S. The case is ongoing at this time. Perri, could this be the official end of Friday the 13th franchise?
I am not good with all the legal speak, but this is absolutely mortifying, and everything that I've read about it makes me think that should the decision be made the way it's presented in that original THR article, yeah, that could be the end, because could you imagine another Friday the 13th movie that's barred from the U.S. with Jason Voorhees in it? That doesn't
Or
make
another one that doesn't use him at all.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is that Miller would have the rights to the version of Jason that he created in the original. So technically, they could still use older Jason, and that includes the hockey mask and the whole getup. So part of me wants to say there's a way that they could get around it, but if that franchise has proven anything, it's that when the mythology gets messy, those movies get bad, and this would just throw like the biggest wrench possible into trying to extend that franchise. I don't know if they could pull it off. It's just, I mean, as a big Friday the 13th fan, it's just sad to hear stuff like that. It's, you know, they've been working so hard to get another movie off the ground, and I'll admit, I was happy when this latest iteration fell apart because I did not want the father's backstory or any of that nonsense, but that is not to say that I don't think there's potential in another Friday the 13th movie at all, and I do want one, and I think these franchises, all these classic characters do deserve the opportunity to have extensions because people clearly want that kind of stuff, and for us not to be able to get it for a reason like this, and again, I don't know all the ins and outs of who really deserves what, but based on how the story was presented in the article I read, it almost feels a little like, you know, years after, Miller's trying to reap more benefits than what he got to begin with, and if he gets what he wants, I don't really see how that means an insane amount of money in his pocket because he kind of disconnects himself from everything. So it doesn't really make much sense, and it doesn't really seem fair to fans.
Yeah, as someone who was pre-law for a semester, the saddest irony in all of this is that the simplicity that we all want from a Friday the 13th reboot, which is we just want to go back to Camp Crystal Lake and have a simple story. We don't want the Jason's dad backstory. We just want a good Friday the 13th reboot. And now you have all of this mess with the lawyers getting involved. And anytime that many lawyers get involved, it's usually not a good sign for the project. Jeremy, especially one that has had as much trouble getting back off the ground as Friday the 13th. I mean, I hate to ask this to you, and Mark Riley, I apologize to you personally. Is it even worth it at this point?
I agree that another Friday the 13th movie, I feel like it should happen. I think it has enough life in it and legs in it. I feel like this whole scenario is like the worst messy divorce, where it's like no matter what happens in the divorce, wherever the kids go, the household is not going to be the same if this goes forward. It's just going to be a different world we live in. However, if this person is looking for the rights of Jason Voorhees, that does not mean he has the rights to Mrs. Voorhees, the original killer in Friday the 13th. Bring back the mom. Bring back Mrs. Voorhees as the killer. They can totally do that if they want. I'm with Perri. I'm not good at the legal speak also. I don't know the lawyer stuff, but I feel like this scenario is pretty commonplace where someone creates a property for a studio. They're like, oh, I don't have rights to that. I just created it for you. And now years later, they're like, well, that's kind of a novelty. I want my rights back. It just kind of doesn't make any sense. So I hope it all works out. I'd like to see a Friday the 13th movie. Download that new game, that new multiplayer game while you can, because it might be going away.
Kristian, you've represented me in multiple court cases. What do you think about this new Friday the 13th news?
Look, here's the problem with it. I think that if it was a bigger property, Friday the 13th is a big property, but if it was a bigger property, a more successful property as of late, I think that there could be a buyout pretty easy. I think that there could be a buyout to where it's just like somebody, shush, here's an amount of money to go away, and whoever it might be, one of these two guys. But I think the problem is that there's no guarantee that this movie, this reboot, whatever it's going to be, they haven't cracked it on how they were going to do it. I don't necessarily know if the majority of fans or majority of the audience would go and see this movie or whatever it's going to be. I don't think we need another one, to be honest. I think that as a Friday the 13th fan like a Perri or Riley, I can understand the need for it. I can understand, or Mark, to understand like why you'd want to be interested, because if they cracked it, then man, that'd be cool to see Jason kind of back in form and they could do it again. But realistically, it's a tired franchise. I'm sorry, it's a tired franchise. It's a cool, iconic character, one of the best, and I actually really want to play the video game, but I think it's just so hard to crack that if this is the end of it, I don't think a lot of people, I think Perri's going to be more upset that Power Rangers 2 isn't going to be upset that they're going to be made than she is this movie. But
you had to bring up that during this story?
Yeah, that's the point.
It might be an accurate statement,
I
though.
see what I'm saying, but I think that is it the end of the franchise? No. Because it's not unless an asteroid hits the Earth tomorrow, it's going to be a very long time that films will continue to go on. So eventually, Friday the 13th will be
very, very comforting. At some point in the future,
Thank
you will get a flick. Ashley, I know you're a big fan of these kind of movies. Would you want to see a Friday the 13th reboot sooner rather than later?
Yes, I really, really do. So I hope that we can all get along, because reading this story, while I love the juicy gossip, it's like, come on, guys, get it together. Make this movie. If you're really passionate about the project, I really want to see it. It's been a long time since we've seen a new Friday the 13th, at least a good one. So I'm really hoping that everyone can just like work out their issues, because I want to see this.
Yeah, here's a really interesting prospect, is that one of the possible outcomes of this is that you could get new Friday the 13th movies that are allowed to be made internationally with Jason that aren't allowed to be released domestically. One of the cooler bootlegs you will ever find available is a new Friday the 13th movie that did well overseas. It was made in a different market. I would love to see a German Jason go stalk people. I would love to see a Swedish Jason go stalk people, and then you get that bootleg here. That would be a fun fan screening to have, and it's probably very illegal for a number of different reasons. All right, Ashley, let's move on to the weekend box office report.
Okay, it's Monday, which means it's time for the weekend box office report. In its first weekend of release, Pixar's Cars 3 took the #1 spot at the box office with an estimated $53.5 million, with Wonder Woman dropping only 30% with $40.7 million and a spot at number 2. Wonder Woman's domestic total is now at $275 million and $571.8 million worldwide after 3 weeks. All Eyez on Me took the number 3 spot with an estimated $27 million, well ahead of expectations. The Mummy dropped 56% in its second weekend of release for the number 4 spot, pulling in an estimated $13.9 million for a domestic total of $56.5 million. However, internationally, the movie remained at number 1 with a worldwide total just shy of $300 million. Rounding out the top 5 was 47 Meters Down, which debuted with an estimated $11.5 million. Kristian, thoughts on the weekend box office numbers?
Lots of thoughts. First of all, you see that 11.5 for 47 meters. That's, by the way, that is very deceiving. People didn't. It wasn't projected to do that. I think they were projecting it at like 2 or 3 million or whatever it's going to be. It didn't cost that much to make. 11 million, as you see, it's not that. That's not very good. That's really good for what they did, and you got to really give credit. Even though I didn't like the movie, the John McClure movie with Blake Lively. What the hell was that one?
Shallows.
Shallows. That movie kind of, because of where that opened, it opened around the same time, and it did very well. It's a good space for it, because this thing was sitting on the shelf for a little bit, and they took their time to release it at this particular time to see what it could do. And 11 point whatever is a pretty good number. I will say the one that stands out the most, there's 2 of them, but the one that stands out the most is All Eyez on Me. I think at almost 30 million, it was quiet. There wasn't a lot of conversation about the movie, except the fact that how much this guy just looks like Tupac. I mean, there hasn't been as much buzz on the film as maybe you would think, but man, I think 27 million to open up, it's a big number. They should be very happy with that number. I actually can't wait to see it. I missed the screening for it last week, so I want to go and check it out this weekend. But I will say that the one that stands out the most, even though Wonder Woman keeps piling money, and because of the success and the word of mouth, it makes a lot of sense, and the drop-off has been phenomenal, it's Cars. That is a terrible opening for a Pixar movie. It is one of their weakest openings so far, Cars 3. I think it's one of their weakest for sure, and it just it proves the fact it's June, and a Pixar movie does 53.5 when there's really nothing else out for kids. That's not a good number. If you're Disney, it's not terrible. It's not a bomb, but it's certainly not. It proves the fact that nobody was asking for Cars 3. Nobody was. It's good for kids. Great, but it's just not. It was a bad move for them to greenlight that thing.
Yeah, Jeremy, the audiences did what you always implore them to do. They spoke with their wallets this weekend when it comes to All Eyez on Me, because even though critically it wasn't received that warmly, a lot of people wanted to see this clearly. There was a huge market to explore the backstory of Tupac, and audiences, I believe, gave it, even though it got a C+ cinema score, they still wanted to see the movie and check it out. And so there was some buzz on the fact that it's Tupac, and that it's also Jada Pinkett Smith coming out and saying that she didn't really agree with this storytelling narrative from her involvement in that backstory. But Cars 3 is the big one to me too, where it looks good on paper, where, oh, this movie made $50 million opening weekend, but it's a Pixar movie, and they should be doing better than that. So I think that a lot of that was the fatigue of Cars. As much as I did enjoy Cars 3, I can understand why people may be getting done with this franchise, and families may be saving their money for something like Despicable Me Part 3. What was your take, Jeremy?
My take, well, first of all, I have to illustrate the fact that I would have killed for a C+ in anything in high school, so that's a pass no matter how you
I
want
actually
to see
did.
it.
Well, I paid money for C+.
That's what I'm talking about. Teachers, they will accept bribes. And it's the box office this weekend does show that one movie's 50 million and another movie's 11 million. One is good, one is not so good, depending on the franchise, the movie, the studio, the legacy. I agree. No one was asking for Cars 3. And not as many people went to see Cars 3 as they have other movies. I'm just saying Incredibles 2 would have been better. I'm just saying. All Eyez on Me. I wanted to see All Eyez on Me. I went up north to visit family, so I only got to see Cars 3 of all the movies this weekend before I left. So I'd like to go back and watch Cars 3. I saw 47 Meters Down, so I'd like to do a review for that. But it's so hard to go back when the movies just press forward. Like, life goes on, and if you miss movies in a weekend, it's hard to be like, oh, I got to go back and do that thing. So I'd really like to. I think them releasing All Eyez on Me on Tupac's birthday was a smart marketing move also. I do want to see that one. And The Mummy is proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that foreign box office can override domestic American box office, which means bring on Friday the 13th, I guess.
Perri, I heard that you were in New York this weekend and you had a rough night with your family seeing one of these new releases.
Yeah, it's not a very family-friendly movie. I mean, my family is pretty fun and open when it comes to seeing raunchy comedies and horror movies, but we all kind of strongly disliked Rough Night, so I'm not surprised that didn't even place in the top 5. I thought it was going to get a little more because I know R-rated comedies tend to do well when they're released at this time of the summer. That one did not at all. With 47 Meters Down, though, I'm pretty happy to see that. I think the projections were closer to like 10 million, so this is still going 10 million, so I'm happy to see that doing well. And I think this is the first movie that company is distributing. So I wish I could remember what the company is called, but I mean, get ready to see more of them. The big thing for me here is Wonder Woman, because holy shit, I mean, that itty bitty drop, it's like 30%. That is a big deal, and I think it's outpacing, if not outgrossed domestically at this point in its run, Suicide Squad and Man of Steel, and now I think it is a really good shot at catching BVS 2 if it winds up continuing to drop like teeny tiny bits from week to week. International, I guess, is a different story because I think those are outpacing Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman's box office total right now is like a higher percentage of domestic intake than international compared to those movies. So I don't know if that'll happen, but you know, with Cars, it's less than the last 2 movies, but that franchise is all merch. It's merch money, and it's gonna make a ton of money on toys and all those little like junky things that kids want to buy. Kids love cars. They like buying toys. They like going to Cars Land. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, I just figured with Father's Day that Cars would do better. I feel like it was just like a very family-oriented movie, but you also get to see some really kick-ass racing scenes. So I just thought Cars should have done better. Fun stat that I saw about Wonder Woman is that I think this is the 4th highest weekend for any superhero movie on its 3rd week in release. That is some impressive stuff. And the Nemiroffs, I'm sorry you guys didn't enjoy Rough Night. Maybe they prefer live comedy. I'll be in New York in a few months.
What's Wonder Woman at right now overall?
That's a great question for Perri.
I'll tell you why.
Wonder Woman is at $274 million domestically.
What's Guardians at? Like
you're asking a lot of questions here,
serious.
Christian.
Oh, shit.
$374 million.
What is it at?
374. So it's got $100 million to get there.
I'm just saying, and look, I'm not taking credit for this whatsoever. What I'm saying is, I didn't have Wonder Woman in my top 5.
Nemi and I did.
I was absolutely wrong on that. But there is with these types of little drop-offs, there is a chance that Wonder Woman could catch Guardians. There's a good chance. I mean, that's not those 2 small drop-offs like that. Guardians didn't have that, Perri.
Yeah.
What?
Wait.
Next weekend they're going to have to go up against the Macbeth of merch, Transformers.
Guardians did have small drops, though. Not as small as Wonder Woman. In week 3, it was like 46%, and it's got something like 25 million more than Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So I think it could stay ahead. But
It's a kind of shot.
I give you credit, though. Wonder Woman is really crushing my expectations right
well,
now.
with all
I'm
that
happy
box
about
office, luckily Warner Brothers had the foresight to lock down Patty Jenkins as the director for Wonder Woman 2. I'm seeing that they have not done that that yet, get on it, guys. All right, let's move on to buy or sell. This is a part of the show where Ashley is going to give us a premise. We simply say whether we buy it or sell it and throw some elbows in the process. What do we got up first?
Michael Bay has been the driving force behind the Transformers franchise at Paramount ever since the first movie debuted more than 10 years ago in 2007. With Bay's fifth Transformers film launching this Wednesday with Transformers Last Night, question becomes, is this his last Transformers movie, and could Mark Whalberg be the face of the franchise moving forward? In both examples, that doesn't appear to be the case. Mark Whalberg appeared on the Graham Norton show confirming that this is the end of the line for him and in the franchise after the Last Night. And with Michael Bay, he told Fandango, "These movies that I've done, they are massive movies. They take a lot out of you. I've done it enough, and I've had a great time doing it. I'm going out with a bang on this one, and I feel like you gotta go out while you're ahead, you know? I think I've had a good run, and I've got a lot of other movies I want to do." Jeremy, do you buy or sell Michael Bay being officially done with the Transformers movies after the Last Night?
I love the fact that quote's pretty much like, as the Joker said, if you gotta go, go with a smile. That was my senior quote. I love that.
That's what you want going into college.
Right. College. What's that? Michael Bay said this after the third movie, I think, and he might have even said it after the fourth. I'm very sure he said it after the third movie. Michael Bay has always said, like, yeah, this is totally the last one for me, and they'll throw more money at him. He's like, or, you know, I can do 13 hours in between movies. Who knows? So whether or not this is the last of it, that all depends on how much money Paramount throws at him. I can't take his word on it, but he has done. This is what the fifth Transformers movie, right? That's a lot. It does take a lot out of you. I can see him coming back for another one, so I'm gonna sell it. I got to go on what he said before and didn't do, so sell.
Technically, it's the fifth Transformers movies, but if you just look at running time for what a normal movie should be, it's like the eighth. I sell these comments. I got two names for you: Gene Hackman and Sean Connery. Those are the only two people I've ever seen in the film industry that say they're retiring and then stay retired. There's so many directors that come out and say, nah, this is my last movie. Whether it's Tarantino wanting to retire or Soderbergh or whoever it is, they always want to come back, not just to making films, but potentially to franchises that made them successful. And I think Michael Bay is doing the same thing that we would expect Michael Bay to do. Now, he might step away from Transformers, and if I was advising him,
he's not
I
talking
would
about
say,
movies.
I'm talking about Transformers, though.
Right.
I think he comes back to Transformers. That's what I'm selling here. I think he will come back. He might step away from it, and I would tell him to do so for a little bit, but I think he will direct another Transformers movie.
I'm gonna buy it, and I'll tell you. And I think it's more because I think it's a mutual thing. I think it's studio wise too. I think the studio, we know that Michael Bay has made, regardless of what you think of him as a filmmaker, with these particular movies, he's made the studio a lot of money. And even though the last one didn't do very well, it did okay domestically. It crushed overseas, and this one's going to crush overseas, and it's going to make a lot of money. But I do think what you have seen over the last couple of years with Transformers is that the studio is trying to take a different approach with it, whether or not they're having new writers come in, they're doing all these different things with them, and Bay wasn't supposed to do that last one, and then he came on. I think that was a respect to him from the studio. I think that they gave him the next one to do. I think they want to go ahead and they want to bring in new directors, and I think that that's partially to do with them as much as it is to do with him. Wahlberg doesn't need to do these movies anymore. Wahlberg can do a bunch of different things. I want to see him do more stuff like the Fighter and things of that nature, because I think the guy's really talented, and to see him do more of those things, great. But Bay, I do think this is Bay's last one, not producing-wise, but as far as directing, I think that for at least a while, this will be the last Transformers movie that we get of Michael Bay.
Perri, buy or sell?
I'm so on the fence about this. I actually think I'm gonna have to sell it though, because it's like fool me once, blah blah blah. So with Dark of the Moon, after that, he had said he wanted somebody else to reboot the franchise, and then said he wanted himself to be that person to reboot the franchise. Then he was going to step away after that, and he formed that writer's room so that they can come up with new ideas. And he liked two of those ideas, so he's like, let me mush them together and make my own movie again. So after that kind of train of thought, what's to say that this writer's room doesn't stay intact, continue? He hears an idea that he really likes, and he's like, well, that's mine. I'm back. So that's how I think this is going to pan out. I think Mark Whalberg is definitely out, though. You can kind of tell. I mean, I don't want to, tell you guys what he's thinking, because clearly I don't know. But in watching interviews that he's doing and the way he's expressing himself and his body language, he doesn't seem to care all that much about this franchise. What was that? It was a clip that we had covered on Friday's Movie Talk. I think it was a Jimmy Kimmel thing. And you could just tell the way that he was introducing the clip. He's like, I'm not so into this, but I have to. It's like, here you go, guys. Watch this clip. And sure enough, the clip was stupid. But I'm going to go into this movie with a semi-open mind. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Even though I don't like the Transformers movies, I am not walking into the last night saying I want to hate this movie. So who knows?
All right, Ashley, I'm going to give you $100 in Las Vegas, okay?
Okay.
How much of that money are you betting on Michael Bay never coming back to a Transformers movie? And how much of that are you betting on Mark Whalberg never coming back to a Transformers movie?
Well, first of all, I hate betting because I'm terrible at betting. But I think it's safe to say that he'll be back. I think that he'll be back.
You think Bay and Wahlberg are both going to be back?
I think that they'll be back. They can't let it go. It's the money.
I mean,
money
look,
talks.
you can't make
Money
DirecTV
talks.
commercials forever. Well, we have one more buy or sell, and it's a picture, which I'm usually not that big of a fan of, but this image is pretty sweet. What do we got?
Taken to his Twitter account, Ryan Reynolds shared the very first image from Deadpool 2. Filming is currently underway on the sequel at Hatley Castle, a stand-in for Professor Xavier's X-Men mansion that appeared in a number of the previous X-Men movie installments, including the first Deadpool. Reynolds, channeling his character Wade Wilson, also shared a message along with the first look. Dropped by the X-Mansion, big effing surprise, no one's home. Mark, buy or sell the first image from Deadpool 2.
It's a huge buy for me, man. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and my first two are, hell yes. This is exactly what I want to see from Deadpool 2. This is the exact vibe. This is him joking around with Colossus about the mansion, about everything that is the X-Men world, and his attitude towards it. Taking a nap at this point. First of all, it confirms to the fans we are going to get him involved with the other X-Men, more so in Deadpool 2, which is something that there's been announcements about that. We've been suspecting it for a long time. Perri, you see this image. Does it get you as excited as I am?
Of course it does, because it reminds me of the incredible marketing campaign that they did for the first movie, and it all started with stuff like this, with Ryan Reynolds using his Twitter following to the movie's advantage and pushing out pictures that they don't spoil anything. They're just fun to look at. They tease a little bit of the tone and what's to come. I mean, everybody's still online chattering about, how many X-Men are going to be in it? What exactly is the trajectory for this franchise with Deadpool and everything that's happening around it? So it's just fun to get an image that is fun to look at, really well represents what happened in the future and what happened in the past and what's to come in the future. And it's fun to look at.
Jeremy, what you got?
A big part of the fun of the first Deadpool movie was the marketing campaign. I'm glad they haven't lost that. Funny thing is, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, more X-Men, but he did say no one's home. Could be him saying no X-Men are in the movie.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
I doubt that's it, because we know Cable's in it, so I believe there's going to be a lot more, or at least a couple more X-Men, but I think it's a fun photo. I mean, him just lounging like, it figures, so I mean, I really love it. I love everything about the Deadpool marketing he did in the first one. I feel like I'm going to love it leading up to the second one. So
Harloff, you did not get as many naps as I do. Do you enjoy this picture of somebody clearly taking a nap?
Absolutely. I buy it for sure, but I actually agree with Jeremy. I don't think it confirms that a lot of X-Men are going to be in this at all. I think that it's probably the opposite. I think the fact that what they did, they played off the fact that there was no one home, and that they're kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the franchise, and they're going to do that again with this movie. And I think that they have a little bit more money, obviously. But what they did in the first one, which I loved, was they clearly, this is part of the universe. Even though they show you that he's got that Ferris Bueller thing going on, and he's referring to the actors' names, and there'll be more of that, and there'll be more of this type of stuff. But I think that it's that constant. Deadpool doesn't fit in with the X-Men. He doesn't fit in with them, but he'll go there and I think he kind of secretly longs for it, but he'll never really do it type thing. And this is the perfect picture for it.
Over under 3 X-Men in this movie.
Including
I'll
Cable?
go over with that.
You're going over. So you think we're going to see... I'm talking about the X-Men that we've seen in movies before.
Like what? Like who?
Yeah, like your Cyclopses, your Rogues, your Professor X's, your Storms.
Maybe. Actually, you know what? I'll go under.
Jeremy, you love Vegas.
I do love Vegas. I'll say over, because we know Cable's in it, and if Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead come back, that's 3. So over.
All right. Well, that's a push.
I'm definitely going over too. And this is the way that you do that kind of stuff, where it's not oh, here is our soul movie, and we're going to throw a whole bunch of stuff to show you how we're going to build a franchise. It's our movie, and then those things are placed in it organically. And I have faith that Deadpool 2 will do just that.
I think the picture did its job because it already got us talking about Deadpool 2. We want you guys to talk as well. We're going to take some of your live Twitter questions at the end of this show. Just tweet us at Collider Video. And this is not the only show that airs on Collider Video's YouTube channel. This past Friday, we had a movie trivia schmodown drop. And then tomorrow, we have a very special team match, Kristian. The fans getting involved.
Yeah, we're getting some fans. You guys have been doing these Schmodown reactions, which have been really fun to watch. But there's a particular channel, Late to the Party, which they were playing. They were just so good at it that we're like, okay, we're going to give them a match. So the Late to the Party crew, both Vanessa and Robert, are going to be going up against Team Action, Ben and Andrew. It's going to be pretty crazy.
It's kind of like the replacements where you don't actually want the fans playing against us because they might beat a lot of us. Perri, we also had behind the scenes and bloopers drop on Saturday. We also had Mailbag on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out behind the scenes and bloopers, it's all about how most of us got our first jobs at Collider. We did a first job overall, so you know where we all got started, and now we're pushing forward a little, and now you can find out how we started working at Collider Video.
And make sure you guys check out on Go 90, this young man's program. Awesome tacker will you see a few of us pop in from time to time every Friday. Make sure you guys check out that app. And later on today on the Collider Video YouTube channel, TV Talk, hosted by some hairy guy named Josh McCouga, will be live. All right, with all that out of the way, Ashley, let's move on to Mailbag. This is the part of the show where you guys write us all week. collidervideo@gmail.com. We'll either answer it here on Movie Talk or in our weekend Mailbag shows. What do we got today?
Jaden writes, hearing War for the Planet of the Apes is amazing and emotional and one of the best blockbusters of the year. So made me wonder, will a motion capture performance ever win an Oscar? For example, could Andy Serkis finally get a nod with Caesar?
I'm going to take a page out of Harloff's Friday the 13th book where sometime in the future, yes, this could happen. Now, will that future happen before or after the apocalypse? I don't know, but I don't see this happening in the next decade, Kristian. I see more and more acclaim for these kind of performances. I just don't see an actual statue being handed over yet for performance capture. How do you see it?
I sure hope that the Academy will start to recognize it a little bit more than they have in the past. It's been this kind of taboo thing. When Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was out, it came up for a bit, and they really pushed hard for Andy. And I think, I haven't seen the movie. I'm going to see it on Wednesday, but from what we're hearing is that it's yet again another great performance by the great Andy Serkis. I just feel, unfortunately, he's going to be one of these guys that when they do start getting nominated down the line, they'll be like, you know who should have been nominated and should have won was Andy Serkis, who was like the pioneer of all this stuff, too. So I tend to agree with you. I don't think that we're there yet. I would love it if the performance is good enough that he gets nominated, but I just don't see it happening yet.
I feel I'm not that upset about it. I just think that it's so hard to tell how much of it is performance capture, which I know Andy Serkis is phenomenal. Toby Kebbell was great in the last movie too, but it's just it's hard for me as the viewer, and I'm sure for a lot of voters to tell how much of it is the actor, and if there's little things that are being altered after the fact. You just don't know. I don't know. The only people that really know it are the Imagineers that are doing that incredible work. I think a Lifetime Achievement Award Oscar is certainly in Andy Serkis' future, but a Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor statue, that's harder for me to buy right now. How about you, Perri?
I think that what you just said is more likely than him getting a Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor nomination. And it's not to say that he doesn't deserve it, because I rewatched the first two Apes movies because we're going to go see it this week, the new one. He really is exceptional. And I've read a lot of quotes from him because every single time an Apes movie comes out, we have this same exact conversation. Is he finally going to get a nomination? And the answer has always been no. I have a feeling it's going to be no this time around, no matter how good that movie is. But the way Serkis presents it, and obviously he would, because I'm sure the guy really wants an Oscar, and I'm also sure he's not lying about it, but the way he presents it is obviously he does not, lessen the value of what the VFX team does. But the performance, what you see on screen as an ape, comes through his performance. It's basically, he had said it, it's the same thing that if he was just him in the movie dressed up as an ape, it's the same performance you would see. So it's just a matter that he is playing an ape and not a human character, so why should that be any different? But I definitely think a Lifetime Achievement Award or some sort of special award is more likely. And, when we don't have Academy Awards for voice acting performances, casting, and stunts and all those kinds of things. I don't think this is going to come first compared to those.
JJ.
Yeah, it's nice use of the initials.
Get dynamite over here.
But I do think that, like you said, Lifetime Achievement Award or some sort of posthumous award is gonna come his way sometime, because they're going to blur the lines between, like, well, what's the difference between digital makeup and physical makeup on the face? I mean, if you look at Tron didn't win a Best Visual Effects Oscar because it was special effects. There were no visual effects. So down the road, decades later, they went back and gave it its awards. Like, you probably should have won that for that year. Now that this category exists, I think, like you guys said, eventually down the line, that category will exist for this. Not quite yet, but when it does, Andy Serkis will have paved the way.
Jeremy, what happens first? Somebody wins an actor achievement for performance capture, or one of us goes undefeated in the pie game?
Oscar. Definitely
Mova,
Oscar.
big fan of
I'm
the pie game.
so excited. If you guys, I love when you guys get just hit in the face with a pie. I really hope
Everybody
that
else
never
loves the pie
happens.
game except for two people.
I hear the words pie game, and I
my
just
God.
Yeah,
So
you
many
can find
pies.
the pie game, by the way, on
Go 90.
Go 90.
Good plug.
In case you're wondering, what the hell are they talking about?
the
I
pie
like to
game
keep
is
it mysterious.
excellent.
Let's move on to live Twitter questions. Ashley, they can tweet us at Collider Video. What do we got first?
Albert Rodriguez writes, Spider-Man Homecoming is looking more and more like Iron Man 4. Do you think it's because the studio has no faith in Tom Holland to carry a film?
I can agree with some of your sentiment or your concern that you're worried that, look, you're a Spider-Man fan. So why would Spider-Man, who's one of the greatest superheroes and one of the most profitable ones of all time, need anybody else to help him get his new film franchise off the ground? However, I do not think this is Iron Man 4. I think Tony Stark popping in there, even if he has a sizable role, which it does look like he has from the trailers, I think that is only going to enhance the greatness that is Spider-Man. So I think your fears are legitimate. I just don't think it's going to go down like that.
I don't think they're legitimate, to be honest with you. I think because the reason to that is that you got to look at it. The reason it's not a matter of Tom Holland whether or not they think he can carry it. It's clearly from the response that fans have from this guy and how charismatic he is. That's not the concern at all. It's the fact that what they just did with Amazing Spider-Man 2 and the way that Sony was just like almost kicked out of town for making that movie, that they had to make this deal with Marvel. The marketing has to show you Iron Man is in this, because I'm telling you, like, everybody watching this show, and when you're caught up in all your movie news, you know what's going on. There are casual fans that have no idea that Tony Stark or the Marvel Universe has anything to do with the Spider-Man, because all they see is, oh, that last Spider-Man was terrible. They don't know. I've told you, I've talked to my neighbors who watch movies when they can. They're to medical students, and when they get a chance to watch movies, they pick the ones that they want. And I was talking to them about Spider-Man. It's like, the last one wasn't very good. I'm like, completely different. I had to tell them, and then once I said, oh wait, Tony Stark, Iron Man's going to be in this movie. This is connected to that. They had no idea. So I think that it's a marketing tool first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of casual fans, they just know that Spider-Man is a Marvel property and that there's all these other Marvel movies, so they assume they're interconnected, and then you have to be the guy that accosts your neighbors when they're coming home from a long day of medical school, do not want to talk movie news at all, and you bombard them for an hour
You
every
save
day.
someone from death? Who cares? Let's talk about Spider-Man.
Perri, is this legit?
Yeah, I'm gonna lean towards no, because even though he's been in a lot of the promos for the movie, at the same time, it still feels like a Spider-Man movie. He's always used in a way that serves Spider-Man's story, and that's what they've established in Civil War, that they have a connection. We are going to explore that connection more in Homecoming, and then I'm sure it's going to be a thing, in future MCU movies. So kind of seems appropriate to me on a story level, and then also you have Tony Stark as Iron Man. If your marketing campaign does not utilize that, that's just stupid.
Jeremy, you finance a lot of young men who want to be superheroes. How do you feel about this story?
The funny thing is, it's a no-win situation. You look at some of the other Avengers or Marvel movies, and they're like, where were the rest of the Avengers when Thor the Dark World was coming out? So that would have been the conversation if Iron Man and Tony Stark weren't in it. It'd be like, well, where's Iron Man now that he's in? It's like, it's Iron Man 4 late. So it's a no-win situation. I'm glad they have Tony Stark in there as a mentor to Peter Parker, and then Peter Parker will break off and do his own thing when there's a little bit of contention. I think it makes for a better story.
It also establishes more of the fact that when you get Tom Holland and Downey with more of this chemistry, that when Spider-Man pops up in the Avengers or anything too, it connects more. And I think that's why, it's just, there's not a possibility that it's going to be like the way Civil War was. Civil War had the Tony Stark element. It was essentially, it was a Captain America movie, obviously, but you had a lot more of Tony Stark. You're not going to see that in this movie.
That's right. All right, let's do one more Twitter question and call it a day. What's up?
Okay. I don't know, the pressure's on. Okay. Dom Duggan writes, if Bay actually does move away from Transformers, what project would you like to see him pick up? I'm thinking Bad Boys.
Ooh,
I got it.
wow. What do you got?
GoBots.
Oh, Jeremy. Well, GoBots is a robot property that, as much as you might have loved GoBots as a kid, they're nothing close to the childhood nostalgia that you get with Transformers. I don't want Bay touching another property that we grew up having fun with. I just want him to be. I'd actually like to see Bay do what a lot of directors have done, where if you hit the skids, and he hasn't hit the skids financially at all, but like Neil Blomkamp is going back to District 9 potentially. I would love to see Michael Bay do a sequel to The Rock, because not only do we get Bay going back to a property that he crushed the first time, we also get the apex of crazy Nicolas Cage. And I know I said Sean Connery stayed retired earlier, but did y'all see that photo of Sean Connery dropping some mail off in New York City last week? He looks great. Sean Connery can still break into prison. Nicolas Cage can still bring that crazy, manic, Oscar caliber energy to a Rock sequel. This is the movie we need, right, Perri?
Wow, there's a great elevator pitch, but no, I like what Bay said on the show when he had said those Transformers quotes that he is just piecing out, maybe, possibly. I think he should. He wants to do more adult movies, and he had said he had just read a bloody Hitman movie. I like that idea. I want him to do something different, something I wouldn't expect. Let's see what he's been, he's clearly, he knows how to direct. It's just he's been buried in Transformers for so long. 13 Hours was good. Pain and Gain was good. Let him do something different, completely different.
Kristian, someone on the Schmoes No Show gave 13 Hours 5 out of 5 Schmoes. What movie do you think Michael Bay should do next?
That person was fired. I think that the next movie he should do is another action comedy. He when he does those well, he does them well. I mean, again, you can say Rock has a lot of comedy elements, but it's more action than anything else too. But I mean, you look at Bad Boys, same type of thing. I'd like to see him do that type of movie, something brand new, and like Armageddon or something. I mean, I know it's a different time now, but maybe he takes a crack at doing, this a new, just kind of an original script where things blow up, and it's a June movie, it's a July movie, and you just shut your brain off and you watch things blow up with some silly actors.
Like
Losers
Transformers?
always
No,
whine about giving their best.
not like Transformers at all. Because
I
that's
was
not what
making a joke. I wouldn't want that, but that sounds a lot to me like
No,
Transformers.
because Transformers. Because exactly what Mark was talking about. That's a property from the past that could have been done very well, and focusing it's completely opposite from what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an original kind of action comedy that is just someone writes a script. They say Michael Bay would be great to blow this stuff up. Transformers had a lot of potential for this particular franchise. It's not that at all.
I just think there's too many connections between that and Transformers, where if that came out and, folks were either middle to like low, not liking it, they'd be like, well, he sucks. Let's not have him ever direct anything again.
All right, well, we'll have to see what Michael Bay's next project is. It'll probably be a reboot of Back to the Future. That'll do it for us here on Collider Movie Talk. I want to thank everybody, both behind the scenes and up front here at the panel with me. First of all, Perri Nemiroff, where can the kids find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @PNemiroff, and please go check out Collider Behind the Scenes. It was fun. You should have fun with it.
JJ, Pies.
Yeah, Pies. You can find me at Jeremy Jahns on YouTube, Twitter, rest of the internet. You can find my show, Awesome Tacular, on Go 90, where Mark Ellis and I throw pies in each other's faces. Kristian, Harloff, and I talk some Star Wars. You can find me reviewing Michael Bay's A Walk to Remember in 7 years.
How about you, Kay?
Well, you can find me, Kristian Harloff, Twitter, Instagram. Like we mentioned beforehand with the Schmodown, it's going to be a big thing where the fans finally compete here tomorrow. Make sure you check it out. Thanks.
Ashley Mova.
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Ashley Mova. Happy Monday, guys.
I am merely the shimmering Mark Ellis. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Make sure you guys subscribe right here to Collider Video on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at Collider. Friday and Saturday doing some yucks, and next week I'll be at the Houston Improv and at Mark Ellis Live. Until tomorrow, I guess we'll see you guys then.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.